Good evening. I'd like to convene and call to order the September 13th, 2021 Select Board meeting. It is now 6:15 and we are here at the Ellen T. Mitchell Bathhouse to make a very special honor to Bruce Mogardo, who has worked for the Beach Committee for 58 years. So we're here tonight to honor him. Unfortunately, Mr. Mogardo could not be with us tonight, and we also have our chair, Doug Brown, who, although fully vaccinated, has come down with COVID-19. So he is home, and he is I spoke with him this afternoon. He's doing okay. So I just want to make a brief comment. I have known Bruce Mogardo, it feels like, for forever. I had him as a teacher at Falmouth High School. I knew him as a house administrator. He's been a Falmouth person for a very long time, and I am so honored to be here tonight to honor Bruce. So I'd like to move on, and I would like to ask our Senator, Susan Moran, to speak to Mr. Mogardo and his work for Falmouth. Senator Moran?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Select Board members. Wonderful to be here right on the beach in Falmouth to pay tribute to Bruce Mogardo, the one and only, the teacher, the coach, the dedicated employee of the town of Falmouth, the example of school kids, the example of sports kids, the example of lifeguards, and everyone who has worked for the beaches, both in the office, on the sand, and in the water. It's Bruce who made the program not only very dedicated and successful, but he also would work very, very hard to be sure that there was a great camaraderie, teamwork, and congratulations with a wonderful celebration at the end of the season. And he would make sure that every single person who was working for the beaches could come to that banquet and enjoy it. No matter what the cost, he put it together and worked with the administration and folks in town to be sure that happened. It's really an incredible tribute. We have all of Bruce's, we've got family, Jess, we've got folks that he's worked with. We've got a tremendous amount of support from folks in the town of really every walk. So I'm just here to present a Senate citation from the State House in recognition of Bruce Mogardo. Your extraordinary, dedicated service to the town of Falmouth and its residents as a coach, teacher, and beach superintendent. Be it known that the Massachusetts Senate extends its best wishes for continued success, that this citation be duly signed by the President of the Senate and attested to, with a copy thereof transmitted by the Clerk of the Senate. Karen Spilka, President. Michael Hurley, Clerk. Susan Moran, your State Senator. Thank you, Bruce. And I'd like to call Jess up, if I could, to present on behalf of her dad.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much for this. I wish my dad could be here to receive this. So thank you to the selectmen and to Madam Senator and to everybody that's here. This is great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I'd just like to add that Senator Moran has graciously volunteered to deliver the citation to Bruce Mogardo personally. So thank you for that, Senator Moran. I'd like to ask Mr. Suso, our town manager, to come up and say a few words. And then I'd like people who knew Bruce also to say anything that they would like to add to our ceremony. Mr. Sousa?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I want to thank State Senator Sue Moran for this well-deserved recognition to our friend Bruce. I want to thank Beach Committee members as well, and the members of the Select Board. As Town Manager, I want to restate my ongoing personal thanks and appreciation to Bruce. And Bruce, I'm going to be speaking directly to you now. My appreciation to you for your continuing steadfast commitment to quality and service in relation to ensuring that the Falmouth public beaches remain the extraordinary resource that they have been for our residents. For 10 years, it's been my great pleasure, Bruce, to work with you as Assistant Beach Superintendent and more recently as Superintendent of Beaches. These job titles do not begin to describe the personal commitment which you, Bruce, have always evidenced. At the town's initial annual public recognition event in February of 2019, it was my privilege, Bruce, as you know, to individually recognize you on behalf of the Select Board for your inspiring length of service and your dedication with a certificate and an inscribed medallion. Bruce, you've set the standard for all of us for selfless public service, for which all of us are extremely grateful. I thank you once again for facilitating the completion of yet another successful beach season, Bruce, just concluded during this second and challenging pandemic year. Thank you, Bruce, and we look forward to seeing you here shortly, and we're so delighted that your daughter can be here with us on your behalf. God bless you, Bruce. Thank you.
Mr. Netto, can we start with you, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. On behalf of my good friend, Bruce Mogardo, I would like to thank the current Board of Selectmen for taking this time to honor my good friend for his literally lifelong dedication to the Falmouth beaches. I know Doug Brown isn't here tonight, and I especially want to thank Doug. We've talked numerous times about this, but to all of you, thank you very much. This means so much when you're a Falmouth person and you dedicate basically your whole life to something in this town, and to have the opportunity tonight with all these people here. I see past, I see Jimmy Fox, who used to work for Mr. Mogardo, and others. And I'll try to give you some quick anecdotal history of how we got from there, 1963, to today, 2021. This beach sand is what Bruce loved. He just loved the beaches. We were in high school, 1963, and there was a change in how the Falmouth beaches were run, and it was a minor change. The superintendent was basically someone who was a summer resident, and those people who were lifeguards and worked for the beaches in the town of Falmouth had wintertime addresses of Hyde Park, Roslindale, JP, Southie. And Falmouth went to a full-time elected committee called Beach Superintendents, Beach Commissioners, and you wouldn't believe this, but lo and behold, the person who hired Bruce to be a lifeguard in 1963 is here today, Beach Superintendent, past selectman, man about town, Andy Dufresne. When Andy and the other beach commissioners took over, and they saw all these summertime people, they told the current beach superintendent, this year we'll give you 8 positions for your relatives and friends, but all the rest of those Falmouth jobs will go to Falmouth people. And at that year, I can tell you, Bruce Mogardo, Ronnie Pacheco, Jack DeMello, people that I went to school with, had those prestigious jobs, because that was a nice job being a lifeguard, because all the girls used to look up to the lifeguards in those chairs. So I have actually here, his daughter found this today, his payroll records from 1963 as a lifeguard. And for those people, because all public employees have public knowledge, the weekly pay in 1963 for a week on the beaches was $52.80. So I don't know, Maggie, has it increased any since then? So from there, Bruce went to go work in the maintenance department. And as we were talking the other day, I said, what made you go from the lifeguard to the maintenance? 6 cents more an hour. And he was on the maintenance crew. Worked on that through college. Became assistant superintendent. Then the town of Falmouth, in its forward thinking, decided that we had to buy a machine to clean the beaches, get rid of the stones and the seaweed. And that's what, as many of you know, well, you didn't see him unless you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, but Jess, I don't know how many years he did that, 20? And would clean all the beaches, in the town of Falmouth. And from there, he had been superintendent once before. And the other document I have to bring this full circle is dated June 18th, 2018, and it's the letter from Mr. Suso making Bruce the superintendent currently that he was in this position today. So these two documents represent, as Selectman Taylor told you, 58 years of consecutive service. And that's far and above, I think, what the average person. So when I picked up that sand and let it go through my fingers, because that's what went through Bruce's toes for 58 years, dedicated. But that's what you get when you hire Falmouth people. You get people that are dedicated. So, again, on behalf of Jessica, we'd like to thank you, the Board of Selectmen, and I feel so weird talking with all these people behind me, so rude, but thank you for coming up to honor my lifelong friend. We go back to the first grade till today. But again, thank you very much. I know Bruce definitely wanted to be here. Things didn't work out, and hopefully he's on the road to recovery. Thank you again.
Jim Fox.
So I was one of those summer people, lifeguards that Joe was just talking about. I first had to try out for the lifeguards in 1972, and I had to save Bruce Mogardo. And that was quite an experience, if you know Bruce. But I worked hard. I got the job. I worked for 5 years, and then I became a town resident in '72, and then I eventually was on the beach committee for a few years, and I'm now on the planning board. I've been really active in this town for a long time. But Bruce when we had problems on the beach committee, we went back to Bruce to figure out how to solve it, because I knew we knew how to do it, because I was one of those guys that used to drag the seaweed up in buckets and haul it on the street. I mean, he got work crews. He'd make lifeguards work on rainy days. He milked more money out of the crew than you could imagine, and he was a great leader to all the lifeguards. And I'm a little surprised there weren't more of them here tonight, but there's a few in the group here from the past. But anyways, it was really an experience to work with Bruce. And I guarantee you, the reason why we still have this road is because of Bruce's work, not just in the last 10 years, but in the last 30 years of how he did it. It was really an amazing guy to work with. So I wish him well, and I want to thank him for all the years I worked with him, and it's absolutely wonderful. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Is there anyone else who would like to share a story? Please come up, just identify yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. I represent the Old Stone Dock Association, and Bruce will know who I am. And I just want to say we don't have a proclamation, we don't have anything really to give, except we carry away decades of happy memories. He lived right here in our neighborhood. We were always proud to have him as a neighbor. He was always ready there to assist us as neighbors as well. Thank you very much, Bruce.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Absolutely.
So, I know it is weird to have your back to everyone, but I just, want to take the opportunity to say, if we were an institution and we gave out honorary PhDs, Bruce would have it. There isn't going to be a person in this town who understands these beaches. He knows how the water moves. He knows how the sand moves. He is somebody who, would be a resource for Hui and MBL if they, chose to consult with him, because he has studied our shoreline, and not in just a way that people do things for jobs, but it's a passion, and he just loves it. And, I'm a little biased because he's my family, but, I can say that he brought to this job the qualities in his other parts of his life, a teacher and a coach. He brought that same quality to this. He was always teaching, coaching. I think, you're hearing how he, really got the most out of everyone who came to work on these beaches. And after all of these decades and kind of struggling, as has been sort of the health situation in the last couple of years, he still was fighting to put every bit of energy and passion and that same work ethic into this job, because he loves the beaches. He loves, when you hear him talk about the staff, the lifeguards, he talks about them the way people talk about their own children. Just an adoration, and his goal is not to just have the beaches be safe and enjoyed, but also to have those lifeguards go off and take some lessons from the summers that they spend here. And I think, he's just a consummate teacher and coach, and he will, he's left his mark in Falmouth. And if he decided tomorrow he wanted to retire and relax, which he would never do, we'd have to drag him off of these beaches. But his legacy will continue on. It's imbued in the staff that has stayed. Maggie has a long history, and she's worked with Bruce, and we have individuals who come back year after year. And so, Bruce, you have forever left your mark on the town that you love and on the people that you love. And I can only imagine the hundreds of men and women who've come through as lifeguards and the life lessons that they've learned, that they've taken on to share in their circles that they have traveled in as they've left Falmouth. So thank you, and we expect to see you out here very soon, because there's a lot of seaweed. So take care.
Thank you, Megan. And in closing, I would just like to say again, Bruce, thank you for everything that you've done for this town, the beaches, the schools, which are so dear to my heart. And I also want to thank Jessica for sharing her dad with all of us. Would you like to speak, Mr. Dufresne? Absolutely. I'm sorry I didn't see you. Come on.
Just a couple of words to go back probably 50 or 60 years with the beginning of the beach committee's authority. Back then we were elected, and the lifeguards came from out of town. And one of the things that I was so happy I was able to implement was the local hiring of local residents, high school residents. And we went through a process where the superintendent didn't call the shots, that we call the shots. It was an elected position, and when I challenged the original authority, I want to be damn sure that I gave them eight positions. This is Andy Dufresne, the beach commissioner, gave 8 positions to the superintendent, and the rest were going to be local employment. And I feel that that was the greatest accomplishment, I think, in my original beginning of my political career. That was my first elected position. And it's worked out very nicely. I look around at this building that we rebuilt after they thought we could not, and a number of other issues that we were able to accomplish. Bruce Mogardo was always at the head of the, he was the brunt of what we dictated and did a hell of a job. And I'm here today to honor his accomplishments as a beach superintendent. And again, I thank everybody who has come here to honor Bruce Mogardo. Sometimes him and I didn't quite get along, but that's perfectly all right. He was bigger than me, so I had to back down. Thank you for listening.
Hi, Bruce, and anyone on FCTV. I'm Maggie Clayton. I am Bruce's number 2. I would not be here without him. It is my 15th year working for the department, and Bruce and I met when I worked postseason for Jim Grady and was climbing into the tombs, equipment lockers, and pulling out all the accumulation from the summer. And he said, "Why don't I know you?" I said, "Because I don't get in trouble." Hadn't been in his office. But after that, I became a lifeguard supervisor, a staff guard, and grew into this role because he gave me leadership opportunities. I used to be one of 57 lifeguards in a chair, but this department is a family, and it's made up of beach maintenance laborers and clerks and parking attendants and supervisors, and we come together for this brief moment, which can be a grueling tourist season on Cape Cod, but we show up with a smile, and we are the ambassadors of Falmouth. And every year, his most important message to all of us was that you are the face of Falmouth, you represent the town. We are here as a community service to keep people safe and allow them to have a fun, memorable experience here. And we're still doing it postseason weekends at Old Silver. Some of the staff was able to be here today, others were not, but all were informed of this moment of recognition. And I'm so grateful to we have 3 current and former beach committee chairs with us here, and Senator Moran, current and former select board members, town manager's office, department heads, our community services department head group, well represented here. So we're wrapping it up for you. You haven't had to call me since Hurricane Henri. I did the stuff I was supposed to do. Thank you all for being here.
Would anyone else like the opportunity to speak? Okay. Thank you. We wish you well, Bruce, and thank you for everything you've done to Falmouth. The Select Board will take a brief recess and reconvene at Town Hall by 7 o'clock. Thank you.